Speaking well in public has to become a craft before it can become an art form. This is actually good news for neophytes. It means the skill can be easily mastered, and you can tweak your public performance and presentation that final 10% at your own pace over the years to come. You will become comfortable with public speaking. You will deliver terrific value to your audience. You will be able to speak in public at the drop of a hat. Here's how. 1. Know your subject inside out. Let's go back to sometime between 234 BC and 149 BC to ancient Rome. That's when Cato the Elder uttered wise words speakers still follow today. Grasp your subject. The words will follow. Cato the Elder was one of the best-known public orators of his day. Yet he started out not as a member of the Roman nobility, but as a humble farmer near the village of Tusculum. But he quickly attracted the notice of more powerful men. He became known for his emotionally ringing speeches, one of which was so stirring it had been credited with leading directly to the destruction of Rome's enemy, the mighty city of Carthage. Cato also spoke from the heart. While being perfectly aware of traditional oratorical tricks and techniques, he touched the emotions of his listeners. He understood them. And most of all, he understood his subject. But remember, knowing your subject inside out doesn't mean you have to be perfect and deliver every fact. It just allows you flexibility, and the more flexible you feel in summing up an audience and deciding what they need to know, the more confident you'll be. Understanding your subject does not mean delivering perfect performances. 2. Practice, practice, and practice again. There's a wonderful story about evangelist Billy Graham. He knew in his heart from an early age that God wanted him to preach. While he was at Bible college, he used to row himself out to a little island and practice on the alligators. Although there's no record of what the alligators thought, I took a page from his book when first beginning to speak in public. There were no alligators handy, so I practiced on my dog, who made the most attentive audience. She was delighted I was talking directly and warmly to her, and I was encouraged by her attentiveness. Silly, but surprisingly effective. 3. Start small. You really don't have to rush out and speak at a 600-person convention. Simply volunteering to introduce a speaker at your local women's business group or introducing a special guest who is going to give a presentation by audio on your website are great starts. Tell a story to your children instead of reading it. Make sure it's one you know well and have read many times. Make short speeches to the family dog, especially if it's a large, laid-back breed. And if you want a really tough audience, try it out on the family cat. 4. Give yourself permission to be nervous. The opposite of giving yourself permission to be nervous is to strive for perfection. And while that sounds like a noble goal, placing a demand for instant perfection on yourself is not only unrealistic, it will make you focus on yourself instead of on your audience. You need to be thinking about what you're giving them, what you want them to enjoy, and what you want them to take away from your speech. 5. Accept physical symptoms. Butterflies in your stomach and a racing heartbeat is nothing more than a simple physical reaction. The old fight or flight instinct that your amygdala, the automatic primal part of your brain that releases hormones, lets loose. As you start to speak, these physical symptoms will go away. 6. Beware of all or nothing thinking. It's amazing how many times we get ourselves all worked up by bludgeoning ourselves with words such as always or never. They usually come out in statements such as, I always mess things up, or I'll never remember all the points I want to make. Make sure your self-talk is positive. Substitute, this is great practice, or my audience really wants to hear about this, instead of your usual negative refrains. 7. Join Toastmasters. This organization's sole purpose is to help and support people learning to speak in public. You'll find almost everyone is in the same boat as you, and everyone is friendly and really wants you to succeed. You'll end up making so many short speeches, it will easily become second nature before you've ever appeared in public. And there seems to be a chapter of Toastmasters in almost every city. More on that later. 8. Learn your speech by heart. Practice it out loud. Then forget it. Seriously. Make a note of the high points on an index card. These can be single words or little cartoons listed in the order you want to present them. Use this skeleton only to make sure you're covering everything. A typical speech skeleton might look like this. Making a business plan. Why have one? Flexible? It grows with your business. How detailed does it have to be? Who is it for? You plus bank if you're borrowing. Do you need a lawyer? Where to find templates? Importance of checking where you're at and updating your business plan. Follow it. In our example above, you're going to speak on the subject of making a business plan, and here are the points you need to cover in order. If you know your subject really well, that's all you need to glance at your skeleton in the event you find yourself suddenly freezing up to set you back on track. Tip: be sure to take a bottle of water on stage with you, or put it by your computer if you're speaking online. Practicing your speech out loud is so important. I'm going to repeat it for our next point. You'll see why. 9. Practice your speech out loud. There's nothing like actually speaking out loud to lay bare awkward phrases. You'll trip over them, get tongue-tied or stammer or catch yourself saying, every time if they're hiding there on the page in plain sight. If you find yourself tripping, verbally stumbling over a phrase every time you reach it, it's a sure sign it doesn't work. It's a clunky phrase, so rewrite it. 10. Always focus on what happens next. When you're writing your skeleton, what you're really doing is laying out reminders of what happens next. If you do find yourself freezing up, with a mind that is totally blank, there's no need to panic. Simply take a sip of water while quickly reviewing in your mind what happens next. This may not sound dynamic and exciting, but keeping the what happens next principle firmly in mind is the best public speaking tip I ever learned, and has saved my reputation and my sanity many times. Glossophobia, and why you don't have to have it. The fear of public speaking is called glossophobia. The term originates from the Greek glossa, which means tongue, and phobos, fear. People who have glossophobia have it for one reason and one reason only. They are focusing on themselves. And all the messages are negative and anxiety-based, common fears. I'm going to freeze and forget everything halfway through. What if my voice sounds squeaky? What if they don't like me? No one will ever listen to me again if I mess this up. I'm going to throw up. Notice that every thought, 1, makes a supposition that is based on speculation, not fact. 2, is all about me. Focusing on your message and or your audience works a lot better. Gathering your audience. Famed Irish storyteller Alice Cain had a trick she called gathering her audience. She would stand before them and wait until complete silence fell, searching out what seemed like every member with her eyes. When the chattering faded away and she had their complete attention, she would begin her story in a soft, quiet voice. She was the opposite of theatrical, a little old lady in a print dress and shawl who stood with her hands folded primely in front of her. Yet I will never forget the first time I heard her speak. She told traditional Irish legends, the tales of the Wondersmith. As she spoke, everyone in the audience forgot she was there, forgot they were in a concert hall. We were transported to the wild Irish countryside, to a land of magic and mystery, And when she finished speaking, we came back to earth with a jolt. Not the most spectacular, multi-million-dollar Hollywood movie has ever compared to that experience. It was true magic. Yet Alice suffered from nervousness too, especially in big concert halls. Gathering the audience was her way of calming herself, and also reflected her early experience as a children's librarian. Take that minute for yourself, was her advice to aspiring storytellers. Find friendly faces in the audience and decide who you're going to tell the story to. Don't be afraid to ask them to respect you by giving you their attention. Another cause of public speaking stress comes from misconceptions you may burden yourself with. That you have to be perfect, that the world will end if you miss out a point, that everyone in the audience has to love your speech. And that brings up another common fear. Fear of being judged. Relax. You can't control what anyone in your audience thinks and feels. You can only control yourself. Joe Smith may be worrying about the rattle his car gave as he limped it into the parking lot. Mary Jones may be frowning off into space because she's trying to remember if she turned the burner off on the stove before leaving. Cindy Banana may be dealing with a splitting migraine and stomach cramps, and may be more worried about getting through the next half hour than you are. None of this is a reflection on you at all. Famed opera singer Teresa Stratas had one of the most haunting voices in the world, yet she is famous for dashing off a Moscow stage because she interpreted the audience's silence and lack of reaction as disapproval, and she was absolutely devastated and unnerved as a result. Nobody told her that Moscow audiences think it is polite to applaud till the very end of the opera. So don't get into your audience's head, even if you see someone frowning or apparently text messaging, or even falling asleep. You don't know what they are expecting, thinking, or feeling. Remember, you are there simply to give them something they want. If you even get one point across that they find helpful, they'll remember your speech with pleasure, quote that point to all and sundry, and judge your presentation a success. Keep it simple. While presentations can definitely be enhanced by PowerPoint slide presentations, don't even go there at first if you're unfamiliar with setting up computer equipment or the thought causes you anxiety. Keep it as simple as possible. A good old-fashioned flip chart will help interactively reinforce your points just as well, if not better. Public speaking is like any other way of serving content. Your aim should be to hook the audience from the word go. Remember to smile. Everyone likes to be smiled at. Just a brief, genuine smile as you gather your audience will not only initiate connection, but will make you feel less nervous too. Start with action. Children's book publishers know this principle well. They often fault would-be authors for too much build-up. They know kids like you to hit the ground running, straight into the action. And it's the same with public speaking. Forget, "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen." Intrigue your audience by asking a quirky question, making them laugh with a clever quote, or swinging straight into an anecdote. Make sure they've stopped rustling through purses and have found their eyeglasses and pens first. Anecdotes should be short and should directly illustrate the point you want to begin with. Change the rules. If you see physical conditions are not helpful to engaging your audience, don't be afraid to change them. Switch off the overhead light and move the floor lamp over. Open a window if it's stuffy and hot. If you're the first speaker at an early morning session and everyone is half asleep, wake them up by playing a very fast icebreaker type game. If they seem hostile and irritable, change their attitude by asking them to move their desks into a semicircle or sit on the floor. Getting your audience to sit on the floor is a trick that professional raconteurs know well. Acclaimed storyteller Hildy Stollery used this to great effect once at a woman's prison. It was miraculous to see these jaded, aggressive women who really didn't want to be there suddenly turn into little children willing to suspend belief for half an hour, she reported. Keeping her words in mind, I used this technique myself to great effect a week later, when I had to command the attention of an entire class full of ADHD children. Let your audience know the rules. If you welcome questions informally during your presentation, let them know, or have the person introducing you let them know. Ditto if you'd prefer they keep all questions till the end. We'll finish with a 10-minute question and answer period, so there will be a chance to ask questions at the end. Ask people to mute their phones if you are speaking online, and tell them how to do so. And if you experience any sort of glitch while making your presentation, verbal or technical, move on. A case in point, the television show Toddlers and Tiaras recently featured a child of 8 or 9 trying to add a party popper to a genie routine. She had previously only practiced with small poppers, but her mother thought a large one would impress the judges much better. The child hadn't used the large one before, and at the crucial moment discovered she didn't have the strength to open it. She didn't waste time after the first few nerve-wracking seconds. Just set it down and moved on. The judges placed her among the winners, and one commented that part of that decision was based on admiration for the professional way the girl didn't miss a beat, but improvised and moved on with poise and grace. Your audience wants you to succeed. They won't judge you for technical glitches or momentary lapses. They'll be right there with you, empathizing and willing your equipment to work. If it doesn't, they'll be grateful to you for staying in control of the presentation by moving on or improvising if you need to, with your attention cheerfully on delivering what they need. Get to know your room. Another tip that has stood me in good stead over the years: get to know your room. The dynamics of speaking to a group will be greatly affected by externals, such as the venue, the time of day, the lighting, the ambient noise level. Are you giving a presentation in the middle of your local mall? On a stage? By a lake? What your audience brings to the transaction. Check out the room or hall in advance, whenever possible. Part of that involves standing or sitting there, making note of its features, and imagining yourself speaking successfully. When you arrive for the actual presentation, you won't be thrown off to find out that you're up on an imposing stage when you were expecting a classroom, or that the lighting turns out to be mercilessly bright and harsh. You will have body memory of the speaking venue, and that sense of familiarity adds to your comfort level when you're ready to present. Getting to know your room online. Yes, absolutely, you can get to know your room online. If you are planning a live performance and you are using a webinar service such as GoToWebinar, you can run through as many practice sessions as you want. Arrive early. Arrive at least half an hour early for any speaking engagement. That way, if you discover your microphone is faulty, you can quickly hunt down the tech or another microphone, or quickly make those extra handout copies for the 30 extra people the organizers decided to add. It also allows you to mingle with those attending the event and get to know them via casual chatting. If making a social connection is something that would add to your comfort when it's time to speak. That way, you can pick audience members you've had positive interactions with and speak to them as a trick for providing a relaxed feeling of connection and calming your own nerves. And the more relaxed you are, the more your audience will enjoy your presentation. The mechanics of speaking. Speaking in front of an audience becomes easier if you remember a few simple vocal tips and tricks. Breathing and voice projection are the key. Let's start with voice projection. All this means is making sure everyone can hear you, even those in the back row. Believe it or not, eye contact helps with voice projection. Most people's natural instinct is to look only at a few friendly faces in the front row. If you gather people in by including those in rows further back, you'll unconsciously project your voice more effectively. Of course, you'll probably have a microphone. In fact, if you're making an online presentation, that's a given. In which case, a sound check is a good idea. Have someone stand at the back of the room or listen to you online and let you know if you're fading in or out, you're too far from the microphone, voice sounds distant, you're too close, booming, spitting, S words and letting out explosive T words, there is any static or other interference. Actors and radio personalities regularly soften their S words and T words. The letter P can also be a problem if you're too close to the mic or the sound is turned up too far. Fortunately, microphones nowadays are much more sophisticated than even 5 or 6 years ago. Simply speaking in a normal voice should be sufficient. But if you're using a microphone, practicing first is always a good idea. Another way to help your voice project, make sure you are breathing properly. Breathe in through your nose, fill up your diaphragm just under your rib cage, and breathe out through your mouth by squeezing the air up directly from your diaphragm. Do this a few times before going on stage or getting up in front of your audience. Then fill your diaphragm again and start speaking while imagining you are talking right from your gut instead of your throat. There should be a noticeable difference. In fact, you may be amazed how much more resonant your voice sounds, even in your own ears. Practice reading short paragraphs aloud using this technique. From books, brochures, websites, read anything until you are comfortable and projecting your voice becomes second nature. What if I forget to breathe? There will probably be occasions when nervousness helps you throw your good voice projection techniques out the window. It happens to everybody. So what do? First, if you've taken those few deep, slow breaths before starting to speak, you are much less likely to succumb to the squeak. But if you catch yourself with a tight throat and you notice your audience is straining to hear you, there is nothing wrong with taking a page from my experienced friend Luis's book to stop and say, "Can everyone hear me?" It allows me to regroup, she explained. In the second or two they're nodding or shaking their heads, I slow my breathing, fill my diaphragm, and I'm ready to start for real. Other techniques to restart out strongly. Take a sip of water. Ask your audience a question. Start speaking to someone in the back row. Tilt your head slightly forward when speaking. It will automatically relieve strain on your vocal cords. Remember, you don't have to be perfect. While donating your public speaking can help build experience, I don't recommend doing that as a general practice. Speaking for free, is it a good idea? If you do feel more comfortable starting out without payment, consider practicing within a group where the focus is on practice, as in a Toastmasters chapter or even starting your own. The beauty of starting your own, you can set up an online practice group. Yes, introducing other speakers is another good way to become comfortable with being the brief center of attention and making notes about what works and what doesn't for yourself. But volunteer or agree to donate your services for free, and you may find yourself never considered for the paying gigs. When you have at least 3 paid gigs under your belt, then you can consider donating your public speaking time, providing it's for a specific, worthy cause. You can also agree to exchange guest appearances on a business peers webinar, for example, or agree to form part of a panel or teach a workshop in exchange for the right to record, repurpose, and sell your appearance to your own list. Finally, another time you might want to donate your time, if organizers are stuck with a failed presenter and they beg you to bail them out, in which case, make sure you've decided on a policy. Will you ask for payment? Easy formula. I'm assuming you'll pay me the same rate as failed presenter. How and when will that payment be made? Is it a nonprofit workshop? Simply ask if you don't know. The main thing to remember when deciding whether or not to speak for free is that in some way there has to be reciprocity to it, even if that's just making the right connections, or you will not win respect as a professional, and you won't feel good about being used. Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a non-profit group with chapters, clubs in almost every country. Its mission is to help people improve communication and leadership skills. Public speaking is a major tool they use. Membership is open to anyone over 18 who is interested in improving their communication skills, though they do provide gavel clubs for teenagers in some areas. Each chapter meets anywhere from once a week to once a month, and their philosophy involves learning by doing. There is a manual and specific speaking techniques to learn, and each member is expected after training to present a speech of between 5 to 7 minutes in length at meetings. There is also a leadership manual. Many a glossophobe has got their trembling start at Toastmasters. Everyone I've spoken to who is a member has A, quickly conquered their fear of public speaking, and B, loudly sung the organization's praises. Their website allows you to input your city or zip code and instantly find Toastmaster clubs near you. Storytelling schools. Another way to become comfortable with public speaking is to take a storytelling course if one is available in your area. The drawback to this is that most storytelling courses are paid, which might not work for you if you are on a shoestring budget. Plus, they are not as widespread as Toastmasters. But storytelling is an essential part of connecting with your audience, no matter how dry or technical your subject, so don't underestimate its value. I've given presentations and told stories publicly, and I can attest that if you can tell a successful story to any age group in any venue, mere presentations pale in comparison. Simply enter the keywords storytelling courses plus your city to find out what's available in your area. Starting your own group. The ideal time to start your own group is after you've taken the storytelling course, if you're going to have to be the leader and organizer. But having a peer-based group in which the only formality is meeting time and place plus length of speech will work even for the most inexperienced would-be presenter, providing you can find others interested in honing their skills too. One tip, however, limit the number of members. Do the math to decide on your ideal number. Are you meeting for an hour? Figure on 5 minutes for chit-chat while you wait for late arrivals and warm up the room. Be there at least 15 minutes early if you're the leader, so you can also chat with early arrivals. Add another 5 minutes for issuing a welcome and introducing the day's topics. Figure on another 5 minutes for wrap-up, and that's 15 minutes out of your hour, leaving you with 45 minutes. If you divide that segment into 5 minutes per person, 3 minutes for a speech, 2 for feedback or comments, your maximum membership ought to be 9 members. How to let people know. If you're planning a location-based group in a physical room, your local newspaper is the place to start. Send out a community press release, as well as a separate short notification for community events. 1. Be sure to date your submissions. 2. Be sure to put your release date on your press release. 3. Remember your press release has to be a newsworthy story. Try to find a single angle most likely to attract the people you want. 4. Make sure you address what, where, why, when, how, much, and who. Your local library or business organizations are also ideal places to place announcements. Be sure to state that only the first X will be able to sign up if you are planning on limiting it to a small group. If you are planning an online group, announcing it in your forums, on your Facebook page, via Google+, or other social networks ought to be enough. Send personal invitations to list members or business peers you would like to see in your group. Again, be sure to state that membership will be limited. How to get started as a speaker. And now the segment you've probably been waiting for. How to actually get started. 1. Know your goal. What do you want your public speaking career to do for you? Providing a source of income will take as a given. Do you want to educate potential clients? Position yourself as an expert? Become famous? Change the world? Help people achieve personal success and self-actualization? Teach them a skill? Attract subscribers? Appear on national TV? 2. Make sure you specialize in a topic you will never get tired of. one you are passionate about, or one that you thoroughly enjoy. 3. Search your local library. Libraries will have listings of meetings and events. Make a note of these organizations and contact them if you think they're the perfect fit for your subject. 4. Ask for referrals. At the end of your presentation, be bold about asking your audience to recommend you to other groups they think would like your services. Point out your business cards on display along with other promotional materials, I hope. Put your referral request right on your business card. 5. Use testimonials. Put them right on your website once you begin to become known. An honest testimonial that's heartfelt can easily land you a paid speaking gig, even if the hirer has never seen you speak. Who can you speak for? This starts with your subject, your specialty. What would you never get tired of talking about? Once you've got your topic, you've got your audience. Look for local organizations that would most benefit from your services and approach them. Have dedicated business cards for the public speaking already made up. Online, it's easy to Google speaker directories and look for candidates that are a good fit. As you can see, there are over 9 million to choose from. Tip: add your specific niche keyword to narrow down the results. But first, check out Speaker Services and Speaker Zone. The latter is an especially good source of resource tips and materials. And for those who want to speak online, a great way to get started is to check out Lunchinars. Putting on your own events. If you belong to even one or two local niche or business organizations, you can plan your own event, paid or free, and publicize it with ease. Just remember to ask people to pass on the information and have your brochures or business cards ready. If you're worried that people won't pay to come to your event, invite a core group as special guests. Even if no one else shows up, you can practice presenting to this group, ask for testimonials from them, and repurpose your content if you were savvy enough to record the event and/or have it transcribed. Reward special guests who attend. Be sure to reward your special guests. The minimum would be a personal thank you note, but you can add gift cards for local restaurants, copies of your books if you have any, or any other bonus you think they would enjoy. You can also put on an online event and publicize it through your usual channels. Forums you belong to, if allowed, social networks, your blog, your website, sales or squeeze pages, press releases, requests for word-of-mouth recommendations, etc. Your website. Setting up a media page. If you're going to send out press releases and set yourself up as a speaker, you should also have a website focusing strictly on your public speaking career, a media page where people hiring you can pick up professional quality, full-sized photos, bio blurbs, and more. How much should you charge? That's really up to you. The correct answer is really whatever the market will bear. Here are some tips you can put to good use. 1. Check out your competition. What do similarly experienced peers who specialize in public speaking? Look up their rates and set yours accordingly. 2. How much experience have you had? The more public presentations you've given, the more you can usually charge with confidence. 3. How much value are you bringing to the event? If someone else is organizing it, how big a draw will your name be? 4. Factor in your time, event-specific expenses, travel, food, and accommodation costs, and charge at least double for that as your baseline. 5. How much value is the event bringing you? If the possibility of creating new profitable relationships or spreading your reach is particularly alluring, you may feel it's worthwhile to settle for less than your usual fee or even put yourself out of pocket. To put this all into perspectives, $2,500 is the lowest fee large corporations or companies would expect you to work for. If you are invited to speak by a local organization or company, they might feel a couple of hundred is a huge bite out of their budget. If you are invited to speak by a nonprofit organization, they'll most likely expect you to donate your time. It doesn't matter what you speak about, as long as it fits into your main mission and supports your goal. It is tailored to your audience and their goals. You stick to one basic theme or angle. For example, if your workshop is all about how to create a business plan, it would actually weaken your lesson if you suddenly went off on a tangent and began speaking about setting up autoresponders or how to hire the best bookkeepers. If you get a question that's not relevant to the subject, acknowledge the question. That's a good question, and firmly table it to another time that won't disrupt the presentation. Here are 3 ways to gracefully turn the conversation back to business. Be sure to remind me after the presentation during the question and answer period. However, we don't have time to cover that in this presentation. Speak to me after the presentation and I'll point you to some resources. But we're here today to speak about Adobe Photoshop, so unfortunately we need to keep to that topic. Gauge your audience. Remember that you are only half the event. Your audience completes it. Together, you make the event become an entity in its own right, with a soul and a persona. It can be absolutely magical to see this transformation, as if the event comes alive and you're just there to facilitate. Each speaking engagement will feel different because your audience will be different. Learn to read their moods and needs, and you can be as direct as you please. How to craft a talk that sells. There's a specific process for coming up with a strong presentation. All of these elements should be present, even if you mix them up into an order that feels more natural to you. 1. Define your topic and angle. 2. Analyze your audience. What does your audience need? What are they there for? 3. Analyze their communication style. Will they respond better to a dry, technical presentation? To humor? Anecdotes? Fast-paced? Are they visual learners? Will metaphors turn them off or help them better understand your points? 4. Write your skeleton. The key points you have to cover to get from beginning to end. 5. Think of new, original ways to cover these points. Is there new information you can share? A unique shortcut? Powerful resources to introduce them to? A revolutionary approach? 6. Look for ways to connect emotionally with your audience. What will make them set up, visualize themselves in your place, see you in their place? 7. Decide what visual aids you are going to use. Handouts, slideshows, PowerPoint presentations. Ask yourself, why? Is this the best way to show this point? Will it break their concentration or perk them up? 8. Write your introduction. Remember to make it dynamic. 9. Write your conclusion. Make sure it includes a call to action, your request for referrals, an invitation to sign up for your next event, or fill out a short survey, etc. If possible, refer to your opening in your conclusion for maximum impact, completing the circle. And, if possible, finish with a rousing, positive, feel-good statement they can carry away with them. 10. Fill in the middle. At this point, this will probably feel like the easiest part. 11. Proof your speech. Print it out and read it aloud, at least 3 times. 12. Notice where your tongue trips over words and rewrite that sentence or section. 13. Practice until the speech fits you like a glove. How to position yourself so they're eager to pay you. It's good to be vulnerable and human, but if you want to be seen as a catch worth paying good money in the world of public speaking, there are definite do's and don'ts. 1. Never ever apologize for being there. You'd be surprised the number of people who begin presentations by saying self-depreciating things like, "I've no idea why so-and-so asked me to speak about coffee makers, but here I am." 2. Don't use jargon. No one wants to hear about inferred primordial abundances unless they are physicists. And if you use an acronym, let people know what it means the first time you use it. Now, RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, maintains that using jargon is akin to putting your audience to sleep. And if you've attracted international audience members, which happens more than you think if you're presenting online, you may totally confuse them. 3. Never worry about looking good. Instead, eagerly anticipate sharing. 4. Deliver more than they expect. Whether that's new insider information, a fresh outlook that finally helps them make sense of a difficult subject, handouts, or free samples, make sure you pack as much focused value as you can into your presentation, all aimed to thrill your audience, make your host look good. They're the heroes that brought you in. 5. Eliminate the ums and ahs. Recording yourself is the best way to identify what your particular annoying filler noises and phrases are. For instance, when I first heard myself speak on tape, I was appalled at how many times I said, basically. I don't think I've said it since. Once you've identified them, do your best to erase them from your speeches. 6. Be dependable. Arrive on time. Check out the location in advance if it's a physical location. Don't depend on your hosts for extra equipment. Have everything you need with you, or else have a backup plan. And never ever cancel if you can help it. 7. Realize you're being paid for your perceived value. Not just your experiences and expertise. If you're speaking about Barbie dolls to an accountant's convention, your perceived value might easily be 0, and nobody would know or care who you are. If you're speaking to the Barbophiles of San Fernando Valley, however, and they are excited by the fact that you're the original designer of the Francie wig, your perceived value may be priceless. Similarly, if you're the one person whose talk can boost productivity in a failing department almost immediately by 30%, you'll also be priceless. While people naturally want guests who are celebrities, most are quite aware their budgets won't stretch to Bill Clinton, who, when last heard of, commanded $150,000 for a 1-hour speaking engagement. They want someone who is well-respected in their niche, dependable, and available. Simply being willing to speak and doing so in a professional, enjoyable manner automatically positions you as a niche leader and expert. You'll build your reputation more quickly than you think. One day, I wasn't a speaker at conferences, and then I was. Chris Brogan. Almost everyone in public speaking chuckles over Jerry Seinfeld's comment on the subject, "Public speaking is the biggest of social fears and sometimes surpasses snakes and even death." If this is the first time you've heard it, you're most likely new to the idea of speaking for dollars. You're wondering if it's for you. If you're shuddering and nodding your head at the idea of public speaking surpassing snakes and even death, you may surprise yourself and turn out to be one of the most confident, sought-after public speakers of the decade. And that is no joke. Why should you want to be a speaker? Speaking to groups builds confidence. Of those who have mastered it, a surprisingly large number report being previously shy or suffering from speech impediments. Perhaps not as badly as King George V, but even he learned to speak in public with the help of a good coach. At workshops and conferences, I used to be the guy with the fistful of brochures, poring over one and pretending to be totally absorbed in it, admitted a member of my local Toastmasters group. Now I can talk with anyone, anywhere, to large groups or one-on-one, and genuinely have a great time. And what's even better, I totally know the people I'm talking to or with have a great time too. In fact, shyness or fear of speaking in public is given as one of the main reasons people decide to overcome it, often with the encouragement of a therapist. As an entrepreneur, however, you should know that being able to speak in public can easily provide networking opportunities, an extra stream of income, a potent increase in your recognizability factor, project client or job opportunities, a source of promotion for your products, services, or you. interview requests. Book contracts. In short, if you are a small business entrepreneur, online or off, the ability to speak to groups of people and to be comfortable with interviews is a must. The benefits of public speaking. 1. Builds permanent confidence. There are more intangible benefits to public speaking. As my Toastmaster friend pointed out, it does allow you to build confidence when thrust into the limelight. And who hasn't been thrust into the limelight on occasion? Unfortunately, in a business setting, an unexpected limelight encounter can make or break your reputation. Rise to the occasion and you're a hero. Scurry away, and not only will you disappoint those who are desperate, but you may not be even considered in the future for guest spots on panels or as a workshop presenter or keynote speaker. Oh, her? No, I don't think we should ask her. She's shy. Here's an account from an industry peer who found herself in exactly that spot. A few years ago, I attended an industry conference which consisted of a weekend packed with workshops. At the 11th hour, one of the presenters was a no-show. I never did learn what happened to her. Not being part of the organizing body, I was there strictly as an audience member. However, 3 of the organizers knew me, and at break I was asked if I could take over the missing presenter spot. I said yes, but frankly, even with a background in public speaking, I was shaking in my shoes. The audience was huge. It would be the largest group I ever spoke to. I wasn't prepared, although I knew my subject, and my name was no big draw, I thought, compared to the missing speaker. However, I was able to quickly put together a skeleton structure on a card, just points I needed to cover in order to make sure the subject was well represented. And I knew from experience the few seconds before you speak are easily the most nerve-wracking. I was given a generous introduction by my grateful hosts and a warm welcome by the audience. I was told by more than one person who knows me that it was the best presentation I ever gave in my life. 2. Leads to more opportunities. Continues the same industry peer. And 2 weeks later, I received an invitation to present a paid workshop on the subject at a private company whose marketing director had been at the workshop where I filled in. The more visible you are, the quicker you're thought of when people are casting about for a paid expert. Speaking of which. 3. Cements your expert status. People immediately assume that you've been asked to speak because you're one of the top movers in your field. The truth is, there may be people far more expert than you, but they are afraid of public speaking. 4. Increases your net worth. Been wondering how to justify raising your prices, not just to your clients, but to yourself? Get a few successful presentations under your belt, and you'll be amazed at how much better about yourself you'll feel. 5. Offers repurposing opportunities. Have someone record and transcribe your presentation. Make it part of your deal when agreeing to speak. You can use the MP3 or video file and accompanying transcript as a paid product, a valuable bonus for your list, a valuable tool for your affiliates, promotional content on your website. 6. Spread your message. If you want people to see you as the LinkedIn lady, specialize in giving presentations on LinkedIn. If you want people to instantly identify you as the spring bulb queen, give gardening talks and workshops. The point is, you, yourself, get to decide what you want to be known for, and then position yourself perfectly to share that message. And if it's a unique twist on traditional material or a revolutionary new method of doing something, you instantly become known as the originator, and you're less likely to see someone else being hailed as the spring bulb queen 6 months down the road. 7. Make connections. How do people get on national TV shows? They start small, giving local workshops or interviews. How do people land assignments that pay thousands for top industry leaders? They're seen at conferences presenting talks on their specialized subject. The point being, Those who sit at home can succeed, but they'll have to work 6 times harder and probably longer to achieve the same exposure and celebrity status. 8. Find top clients. And have they come to you? Top drawer clients who pay well don't generally hire unknowns to keep them in the spotlight. They want the best. And the best generally are in the public eye. And that doesn't mean playing hidden chronicles on Facebook. We're back to the old assumption of, if they invited her to speak, she must be the best. 9. Get paid to travel. If you love traveling, what better way to see other states and countries than to have someone else pay to fly you out, pay for your hotel accommodation, and then pay for your time? 10. Easily pass and surpass your peers. Remember what we said earlier about the majority of your peers being too afraid to step into the limelight? This is truer than you might think. While they're still hesitating and reinforcing their own fear by muttering things like, "Rather her than me," or "I'd sooner put my hand in a blender than get up on that stage," you'll be rocketing past them to the top of your field. But relax. You won't get the top gigs right off the bat, and that's okay. You'll need to find your comfort zone, hone your speaking skills, and build your confidence first. Fortunately, these skills are concrete and transferable. They are the same for everyone, and as a result, easily learned and acquired. In fact, I'm going to tell you a secret. Anyone can speak in public. And that includes you. But I'm afraid of public speaking. But what if even the idea of speaking to a group makes your palms start to sweat, your heart hammer, and your throat suddenly turn dry? Once you've finished this report, you'll have all the tools you need to make sure that, even if that happens, you'll still deliver knockout professional and memorable performances.